a poem titled, "Some Things Only a Father Can Do." Quote, "Father, you bring a special atmosphere inside our home. I'm glad you realize how important it is to share the joys and burdens of parenthood. It's nice to have two parents to laugh and cry with. Although moms in your worldview normally don't match, I've learned a lot from both of you. This brings much discussion and better choices when we all agree. Father, you bring blessings into my life with your presence. Your absence would leave a hole in my heart. Your emotional, physical, and financial support brings safety and security into my world. I am glad for all you do, Dad. My life needs your input. Some things only a father can do." The face of fatherhood has been changing generation by generation. Sometimes the expectations far exceed the capacities of any human being, yet many fathers do just fine being a valuable part of the family. Thank you for joining me, ESTRA, this June 15, 2013, for Talking About You with ESTRA on Blog Talk Radio and ESTRA's TV, currently featured on YouTube under ESTRA's blog. This is your car accident show sharing information and concerns that help you, family, friends, and communities from an injured person's perspective, meaning the person hurt in a car wreck. Today's topic will be about you and fatherhood. As a father, disability after a car accident can bring consequences that leave you unprepared. Being the family breadwinner can cause hardships after a serious injury or sickness. Regardless of the trials, many fathers support their families through good and bad times. Also in today's program is personal injury in the news, providing comments on events and holidays of the coming week, my commentary on you and fatherhood, and last but not least, discussion on articles related to our topic. Today's fathers juggle more issues than in past generations. In fact, the family structure and roles may indeed be in transition. One thing holds true, that fatherhood is a very important part of the family structure. Many males still consider it their responsibility to keep their families safe and secure, even situations that are out of their control. And many internalize their experiences, although society as a whole are more accepting of them sharing life's journey. In this program, your challenges in dealing with insurance companies, self-insured employers, and coping with everyday situations from being involved in an accident are up for discussion. Dial 718-766-4385. Again, dial 718-766-4385 right now to participate in today's broadcast. Someone injured just like you, wanting to hear your fatherhood stories, is waiting for your call. If after the show, dial 206-203-4686 to provide your comments or tweet at ESTRA's Radio Show on Twitter. Tune in every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio, or view every Wednesday on ESTRA's TV, YouTube user ESTRA's blog. We are coming to you from Seattle, Washington. Personally, I know your situation. I have dealt with insurance companies such as USAA, Geico, PIMCO, Progressive, Farmers, Allstate, The Hartford, Premier, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Medicare, LifeWise Assurance Company, Social Security, and employer S&C Leveling Constructors, previously known as Enron. Other notable mentions this week include June 16th, which is tomorrow, which is Father's Day. And TimeandStamp.com describes Father's Day in the United States as, quote, "Father's Day in the United States is on the third Sunday of June. It celebrates the contributions that fathers and father figures make for their children's lives. Its origins may lie in a memorial service held for a large group of men, many of them fathers, who were killed in a mining accident in Mahogany, West Virginia in 1907. End quote. And Wikipedia actually adds a bit of history, and I think sometimes in order to know where you are, you need to know where your origins come from. So I'm going to give you a little of that for Father's Day. Quote, Father's Day was founded in Spokane, Washington at a YMCA in 1910 by Sonora Smart Dodd, who was born in Arkansas. Its first celebration was in Spokane's YMCA on June 19, 1910. Her father, the Civil War veteran William Jackson Smart, was a single parent who raised 6 children there. So I just have to stop for a quick moment. That tells you that fathers have been raising children for a very long time, even as single parents. I'm going to go on. Quote, after hearing a sermon about Jarvis's Mother's Day in 1909, she told her pastor that fathers should have a similar holiday honoring them. Although she initially suggested June 5th, her father's birthday, the pastor did not have enough time to prepare the sermon, and the celebration was deferred to the 3rd Sunday of June. It did not have much success initially. In the 1920s, Dodd stopped promoting the celebration because she was studying in the Arts Institute of Chicago, and it faded into relative obscurity even in Spokane. In the 1930s, Dodd returned to Spokane and started promoting the celebration again, raising awareness at a national level. Good for her. She had the help of those trade groups that would benefit most from the holiday. For example, the manufacturers of ties, tobacco, pipes, and any tradition presents to fathers. I have to stop real quick. And that just shows you that how important the unions were in that time in being able to help to get people together, to make them informed and allow them to be able to get the things that they needed. And that's something that we're going to have to do today. And we have to have unions that will be strong and who will stay in the best interest of their members and not get in bed with corporate America. Okay, I'm going to go on. Quote, since in 1938, she had the help of her Father's Day Council, founded by the New York Associated Men's Wear Retailers, to consolidate and systemize the commercial promotion. Americans resisted the holiday during a few decades, perceiving it was just an attempt by merchants to replicate the commercial success of Mother's Day. And newspapers frequently featured cynical and sarcastic attacks and jokes. I want to stop right here for just a moment. And this is where you see the same process of things happening whenever something is introduced. So if you have something that you believe in strongly and want to pursue, don't let the hecklers, the haters, people with maybe even a vested interest in not having it succeed stop you. Make a decision to pursue it and go forward. Let me go on. Quote, but the trade groups did not give up. They kept promoting it and even incorporated the jokes into their adverts. And they eventually succeeded. Yay! By the mid-1980s. Can you believe that? So that was from 1930 to 1980. That's a big push, okay? That's what you say, staying the course until it's done. And that's just me. Okay, I'm going to go back here. By the mid-1980s, the Fathers Council wrote that Father's Day has become a second Christmas for all the men's gift-oriented industries. I guess I'll have to stop here. You see where profit comes in. Unless it benefits corporate America, sometimes it's very difficult to get something done, especially if it's something that's not in favor of what corporate America is doing. But it doesn't mean you have to give up. It means you just have to make people more aware of the situation. Quote, a bill to accord national recognition of the holiday was introduced in Congress in 1913. In 1916, President Woodrow Wilson went to Spokane to speak in a Father's Day celebration and wanted to make it official, but Congress resisted that it would become more commercialized. U.S. President Calvin Coolidge recommended in 1924 that the day be observed by the nation, but stopped short of issuing a national proclamation. Two earlier attempts to recognize the holiday had been defeated by Congress. So Congress still were doing some of the things back then, not just to this degree. In 1957, Maine Senator Margaret Chase Smith wrote a proposal accusing Congress of ignoring fathers for 40 years while honoring mothers, thus singling out just one of our two parents. In 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson issued the first presidential proclamation honoring fathers, designating the third Sunday in June as Father's Day. 6 years later, the day was made a permanent national holiday when President Richard Nixon signed it into law in 1992. So Nixon did do some good things in office. In addition to Father's Day, International Men's Day is celebrated in many countries on November 19th for men and boys who are not fathers. End quote. See what a difference history makes? It's just really good to know why you're celebrating the holiday and what it's meant and what people had to do to make it a holiday. The next mention for this week will be June 19th, which is Juneteenth. And it comes to us from Juneteenth.com. And in quote, Juneteenth is the oldest national celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. Hallelujah! From its Galveston, Texas origins in 1865, the observation of June 19th as the African American Emancipation Day has spread across the United States and beyond. Today, Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and emphasizes education and achievement. And I just need to stop there. And African Americans, it's unfortunate that many of our school systems are still providing second-rate educations. In my opinion, the only way that's going to change is when African Americans are allowed the same opportunities, and poor whites, okay? It's not just African Americans, it's people who live in poverty today, of being able to get a decent education to prepare for their lives. All over the world you see people now striving, hungry for education, and this is not a time for Congress to be throwing our children under the bus. Don't throw our children under the bus, Congress, or vote them out in 214. We need a strong America, and those who are not working to make it stronger or have their own agendas don't need to be there. So if they're in your state, you know they're not helping you in your state. You see the disadvantages that your state now has because they've been in office, vote them out. But you have to stand up and you have to vote, and you have to let them know that this is your America, and your America deserves to have Congress people who will work for their country, not for them. I'm going to go on because I could really get into that one. I'm going to go back and read that one sentence. It says, today Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and emphasizes education and achievement. It is a day, a week, and in some areas a month marked with celebration, guest speakers, picnics, and family gatherings. It's a time for reflection and rejoicing. It is a time for assessment, self-improvement, and for planning the future. Its growing popularity signifies a level of maturity and dignity in America long overdue. Hallelujah. I have to throw in a couple hallelujahs in that today. In cities across the country, people of all races, nationalities, and religions are joining hands to truthfully acknowledge a period in our history that shaped and continued to influence our society today. I hope you're still not waiting for the acre and a mule, though, because I don't see that coming. Sensitized to the conditions and experiences of others, only then can we make significant and lasting improvements in our society. And that's, in my opinion, very true. And that extends to all people, and particularly economic disadvantaged people in America now. There's only the poor and the wealthy, and unless the poor stand up and say, we've had enough, some of the stuff we've been subjected to will not stop. Quote, the Juneteenth flag consists of a rectangle. The lower part of the rectangle is red and the upper part is blue, and it has a solid white, 5-pointed star as its center. The star is surrounded by a white outline of 12 pointed stars. The Juneteenth flag is often displayed with the United States flag to symbolize that slavery is illegal. Hallelujah. In Texas and some other southern states, the traditional drink of Juneteenth is Big Red Soda. Wow, I didn't know that. This variety of cream soda is sweet, soft drink flavored with orange and lemon oils and vanilla. It is available in different flavors and with or without caffeine and sugar. End quote. Wow. So did we learn something on that? We have. And in my opinion also, I just have to make this short note, slavery to me, it may not be as much as against African Americans, although if you look at the levels of employment for minorities, it far exceeds that of the counterparts of white Americans. So there's some of that, in my opinion, still going on. From my perspective, it's more of just impoverishing everyone and only a few having the resources. So we have to decide to start own businesses, not just look to one segment of society for their help, but to actually start helping each other to move forward. Wikipedia, of course, has a little bit more history on that, so I'm going to read a little bit about that. Quote, through Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on September 22, 1862, with an effective date of January 1st, 1863, it had minimal effect on most slaves' day-to-day lives, particularly in the Confederate States of America. Texas, as a part of the Confederacy, was resistant to the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth commemorates June 18th and 19th in 1865. June 18th is the day Union General Gordon Granger and 2,000 federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to take possession of a state and enforce the emancipation of its slaves. I have to stop here for just a moment. This is an example of where you see government has to intervene, that some people, when it's has to do with letting go of something that they want, even though the laws have changed, they don't agree and they try not to enforce it. And when our government is listening more to what the laws are not and what the laws should be, then we have a problem, because most of the time that's who we rely on to stand up and support each and every American. So if they're not standing up and doing the things to support us and listening to American or corporate greed, it can be a very big problem. On June 19, 1865, while standing on the balcony of Galveston's Ashton Villa, Granger reads the contents of the General Order Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Let me read that again. All slaves are free. That means you don't have to be subjected to slavery today. I think it's fantastic that the generation of kids coming up now have chosen not to have credit cards. In my opinion, they've saw what it's done to their parents and the destruction it's had, and it hasn't worked for anyone but the 1%. And I'm so proud of you for standing up and saying, we're not going to be in bondage like our parents' generation. We're not going to do it. We're going to make a new way. We're not going to follow in that. We see where that leads, and we don't want to go that way. I've got a lot to say on many different areas. It's really just bringing it all out today. I'll read that sentence again because it's a great one too. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection hereto existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. It's a little interesting, but it was a start, and that's definitely the start that African Americans needed in that day, is to be free. When you're free, you can choose how you're going to want to live. That's a good thing. Not that it's always easy to choose the hard things, but the hard things can take you a lot closer to where you want to be than staying in slavery. And that's true today. So choose where you want to go and what you want to do. Quote, that day has since become known as Juneteenth, a name coming from a portmanteau of the word June with the suffix teen, as in 19, coined by 1903. Former slaves in Galveston rejoiced in the streets with jubilant celebration. Juneteenth celebrations began in Texas the following year. Across many parts of Texas, freed people pooled their funds to purchase land specifically for their communities and increasing large Juneteenth gatherings. I need to stop there. You need to hear that again, because there's a lot of poor people today who need to pool their resources. Why? Because you don't have very many left. And why is that? Because the 1% has most of it. But you can start to work together and move out of the situation you are in, and then tell your children so in future generations we don't have a 1% and a 99%. I need to read that one more time. Across many parts of Texas, freed people pooled their funds to purchase land specifically for their communities and increasingly large Juneteenth gatherings, including Houston's Emancipation Park, Mexa's Booker T. Washington Park, and Emancipation Park in Austin. In Arkansas, the small town of Wilmar has consistently observed June dinner for almost the time of the emancipation, well over 100 years, except for 1 year during the Great Depression, end quote. Doesn't that just invigorate you? Wow, that should tell you whatever you're going through today, whether able or disabled, you can make it. You can. They've done it. They've shown you. It's fantastic. Okay, the last actual event for next week, which is there's a lot of things going on, is June 21st, which is summer solstice, which is the first day of summer. The timeanddate.com actually gave a great quote for it. The first day of summer, it says, in the USA and some other areas in the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice marks the first day of summer. However, the official day for the first day of summer varies depending on the country's climate. We know our climate's been a little crazy this year. June solstice occurs when the sun is at its furthest point from the equator. It reaches its northmost point, and the Earth's North Pole is tilted directly towards the sun at about 23.5 degrees. It is also known as the northern solstice because it occurs when the sun is directly over the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere. If the Earth's rotation was at right angles to the plane of its orbits around the sun, there would be no solstice days and no seasons. How bizarre. It says June solstice day has the longest hours of daylight for those living north of the equator. Those living or traveling to the north of the Arctic Circle are able to see the midnight sun, where the sun remains visible throughout the night, while those living or traveling south of the Antarctic Circle will not see sun during this time of year. Wow, what a world we live in. For those living near the equator, the sun does not shift up or down in the sky as much compared with other geographical locations away from the equator during this time of year. This means that the length of day temperatures does not vary much. Wow, that's truly amazing, end quote. So summer is here. You're going to get the barbecues out. It's going to be hot in most places, and hopefully we won't have so much crazy weather. I mean, we've had a lot of tornadoes, we've had a lot of floods, just a lot of misfortune, a lot of forest fires. So hopefully maybe we'll get something that's really enjoyable and get a bit of good news out of summer. But next week's going to be an eventful week.